Okay, so continuing with our looking at balancing equations. So, as we said before, that with when we're writing out chemical formulas, if we have anything that's outside of a parentheses applies to everything that's within that parentheses. So here, this 2 applies to that oxygen, applies to that carbon, and applies to that H. So one other thing that we can see is if we write something in front, so if we put a 3 before this, that 3 applies to everything after it. So that 3 applies to that, applies to that, applies to that, applies to that, and that as well. So 3 in front. How do we write that out? So we've got Ca, H, C, and O. So we'll step through this. So calcium, there's 1, but we've got 3 of them. Actually, I'll write it this way. This will be a little bit easier to see. So if we skip this first, calcium, we just have 1. H, there's 1 in there, but it's inside the parentheses, so we have 2. C, same thing. 1 inside the parentheses, so we have 2. And oxygen, 3, but we've got 2 of them, so that gives us 6. So just by itself, that tells us 1, 2, 2, and 6. Now, if we have this 3 in front, that means that everything after it gets multiplied by 3. So for calcium, instead of 1, we've got 1 times 3, which is 3. Hydrogen, instead of 2, we multiply that by 3, which equals 6. Same thing with carbon. And then for oxygen, instead of 6, we multiply that by 3, which gives us 18. And so this process, we'll see, is what allows us to balance equations. So I'll just kind of start off here with an example. We'll do this. So we will say that, let's try calcium. Since we started that right there, we'll say calcium bicarbonate plus, we will say, let's see, what's a good one? So calcium bicarbonate plus sodium chloride, which of course is salt. So if we were to get these to mix together, we would just switch. So when these combine here, we've got, and we'll talk about kind of more about this, but you can take the first part here, calcium, and then you mix it with the second part here, which is chloride. But we remember calcium has a +2. Chloride has a -1. So to get those to balance out, you have to put a 2 there. And then the other part is sodium. And here bicarbonate. But sodium has +1. And bicarbonate, this whole thing has a -1. So those actually balance out. NaHCO3. So, is this balanced? Well, if we look at it right here, we can see we've got 1 chlorine here and we've got 2 over here. So how can we we want to make sure that we've got the same number on the left side as the same number on the right side. So that's kind of going to be our challenge. So what do we have to balance so far? We've got, let's see, we've got calcium. What else do we have? Well, looks like we've got sodium. We've got chlorine, or chloride, Cl. And finally, and so this is a trick that we have, inside the parentheses here we've got HCO3, bicarbonate. As a group, we have the same group on the right side. So we can kind of treat that as a group. We can only do that if we had the exact same on both sides, but we can't get away with that here. Alright, so here's what we can do. Make ourselves a little table. This will just kind of help us to visualize. So this squiggly line is kind of our balance, left and right side. And now we just go through and populate it by counting. So what we're doing is whatever is up top, we're just going to go down and see how many of those we have. So calcium, we've got 1. Sodium, none, none here. Chlorine, none. Bicarbonate, we have 2. So, same thing here, sodium chloride. We don't have any calcium. We've got 1 sodium, 1 chloride, and no bicarbonate. And then the same thing on the right side. Calcium, we've got 1, sodium, 0, chloride we have 2, bicarbonate 0, and then for sodium bicarbonate, 0 calcium, 1 sodium, 0 chloride, and 1 bicarbonate. So, in calcium, we've got 1 and 1. You add what's on the left side, 1 plus 0. On the right side, 1 plus 0. So 1 and 1. Sodium, 1 and 1. Chloride, we have 1 on this side and 2 on this side. And bicarbonate, we have 2 on this side and 1 on this side. So, how can we get these to balance out? Well, we'll start here with this chloride. So what we're trying to do now is to balance across a row. So on the left side we've got 1, and on the right side we've got 2. So what can we change to get this to equal to this? Well, if we put a 2 here, then remember that everything here, so this gets multiplied by 2, and that gets multiplied by 2. So times 2 equals 2, times 2 equals 2. So now, chloride, we've got 2 on the left side and 2 on the right side. But we're now out of balance again with sodium. We've got 2 here and 1 here, and bicarbonate, we've got 2 here and 1 here. So what we can do then is repeat the process here. Because we put this 2 in front, it goes to the sodium and to the bicarbonate. So, sodium, we go across, 1 times 2 equals 2. And bicarbonate, 1 times 2 equals 2. So now, for calcium, we've got 1 plus 0, 1. We've got 2 and 2 for sodium. For chloride, 2 and 2. And bicarbonate, 2 and 2. Left side equal to the right side is a balanced equation.